Well, with the return of a fan favorite character and many agents starting to get their memories back, we are also reminded how deadly of a place the framework can be in a tragic episode. Hey guys, whomever aims to shield, season 4, episode 18, no regrets, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. I've really enjoyed this part of the season so far. I think they've really done a great job with changing up a lot of the character dynamics and just upping the stakes more and more as much as they possibly can. And this episode was amazing. I really did love this episode overall, and it really did remind us of the possibilities of what this framework entails and really what can happen in this framework. I mean, I don't think any of us expected the return or the death that we got. I mean, we got some really big stuff going on here. It seems like more of the agents are starting to come through. We got more of a reason for why Fitz is the way he is. But let's just get into this episode because I definitely really did love it overall. And I really do like the way we start out because we see Mace and Coulson, and they're setting up a fake car accident, and Mace flips over a car to make it look convincing. He figures that it will stop the prison bus and tells Coulson that there is another prisoner that they're interested in more than Daisy, and Mace asks how well Coulson knows Simmons and points out that she thinks that the Dr. Fitz is brainwashed, and he wants to know what else that Simmons is hiding. So when they receive word that the bus is coming, Mace hides and the bus pulls over. The guards come out, and Mace and Coulson take them out, and they discover the bus is filled with a bunch of body bags. We don't know what that's about, but in her cell at the Triskelion, as we know, last week, Daisy was imprisoned by Fitz, obviously because we know that Fitz thinks that, she's inhuman and things like that, and Daisy asks Fitz why he's torturing her, and he says that he knows the truth about her and her world, and believes that the Daisy he's facing is simply just a replacement. This isn't the actual, Sky, and Fitz echoes what Aida told him about how the other world plans to invade theirs. And remember, he thinks this other world's a bad thing because she's, allegedly let him, told him that. And he asks if Mace is from there, and Daisy says that they're all from there, including Fitz, and that if anyone could get Fitz to wake up, then it would be Simmons. And she says that Fitz and Simmons love each other, and Fitz then slaps her, says that if they face unspeakable choices to get the truth. Daisy asks what happened to him, and Fitz merely says that it's his home, and he's not going to let her destroy it. So he promises that he'll get to their world first and make sure the Patriot and all their kind pay. So again, you can tell that Fitz is he's not coming through. He's pretty much broken, and it's really sad. I mean, you want Fitz to be able to get back to that Fitz that we all know and love, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. So we see May. She's looking at the wall of people that were lost at the Cambridge incidents, and Aida joins her, tells her not to dwell in the past, and I guess it's Ophelia now because we know she wants to be called Ophelia. But May says that they need to worry about the present. She tells Ophelia that it's time to take Mace out, and Ophelia says that they have made a weapon that they can beat them, but there is involved. And May tells her that it's only a risk if she has nothing to lose, and she eagerly volunteers. So again, May is also pretty much on her side. You don't know if she's really going to come through, so I thought again that was really good. But at the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, the team looks at the bodies. Max says that Hope is still rattled, obviously because of what happened, and Ward assures him that she's safer there with them, but when Mac offers to help, Mace tells him to switch the plates on the bus and wipe the GPS so that they can use it. They're going to use the bus to get into the Triskelion and rescue an operative with info about a new Hydra weapon, and once Mac leaves, Ward tells Mace that Simmons is actually stonewalling him, and Coulson tells Simmons that Daisy wasn't on the bus. She wants to tell Mace the truth because the missions don't matter, but, obviously, she just wants to tell him what's going on, but Coulson warns that Ward and Mace aren't like him. Coulson, he's starting to come through, but they're not going to be as, rational, and they're not going to remember as much as he does. And again, what I love about this is that we don't know how long that they've been in the framework. Coulson could have been there a lot longer than, say, Mace has, and Mace could have been there a lot longer than Coulson has. You just don't know. And he wonders if he and Ward actually got along in the real world, and Simmons admits that they didn't. Of course, we know that Coulson did, chop Ward's head off, and Ward and Mason arrive, and they lead Simmons off, and I love how tempted Simmons feels to let Ward in on what's going on. Again, it's probably going to be one of the most tragic parts of the season is when Ward finds out what's going on, but I really do like the way this is changing up. I like the way they're slowly starting to get more information, but it's not happening as quick as they wanted to, and I really do like the way that's all going. So May then goes to the lab, and the scientist in charge, Kenneth, explains that they've created an augmented strength serum, and it's temporary, but it's not Terrigen based, and it will give May enough strength to beat Mace. As we know, Mace is like the big, he is the patriot in this world, and he has powers, and Mace and Ward then question Simmons, who explains what Mace did in the real world, and she insists that Daisy and Radcliffe are the key to their all getting out, and Mace then asks where he's from in the real world, and if he has a family, and Simmons doesn't know, and he asks, says that she doesn't know him well enough, and I like that he's asking these questions. He really wants to be let on what's happening, and he describes his entire life, explains he's buried 17 friends and family while fighting against Hydra, which is crazy, but Mace wonders if it's all meaningless, and Ward says that they'd have Daisy if he had killed Radcliffe when he had the chance, and Simmons says that's the Ward that she knows, the Ward that's always thinking about killing people and wanting to put an end to them. I mean, that's who Ward has always been. He knows how she knows that she's the one making up to another reality. So she insists that it can't be real. The man she loves would never execute someone in cold blood, even though we know that this is not the Fitz she loves. And Ward tells her that Fitz did, and Mace insists that they did what matters, and she'll never convince them otherwise. And frustrated, Simmons walks out, and Mace admits that there might be a grain of truth to her story. You don't know. Maybe she does have a point. So he tells Ward to find out what it is, and Fitz then tells Ophelia that Daisy only gave them lies, and Ophelia then goes to the cell to interrogate her. She tells Fitz to check on Project Looking Glass, and he agrees, and Daisy tells Ophelia that her prison sucks, and Ophelia insists that she just fixed one regret, and the subsequent world is a consequence of that, and Radcliffe then screams from the next cell. Ophelia has a guard torture him, again, because he's one of the only ones that actually knows what's going on, and she's trying to keep this as much as a reality as possible, and she tells Daisy that she can't give Daisy her powers, but she can give her Lincoln. And what she tells her here is a really tempting proposal that you think Daisy would take, and Daisy can have a peaceful life with him with no memory of her old life and no regrets. And if this was Skye, like I'd say 2 seasons ago, she would have easily taken this. She would have been like, all right, fine, yes, I want Lincoln, that's all I'll take. If this was before, I'm talking about before the time jump happened, when Daisy lost Lincoln, if this was like a few years ago, then yeah, she definitely would have taken that opportunity, but that's not how this is. As we know, Daisy lost Lincoln, she's over him, and she's not just going to take that. So in exchange, she has to tell Ophelia where she is in the real world, and Daisy realizes that Aida is actually the puppet master, and says that sometimes what people want isn't right for them, and she wonders what Aida gets out of all of it, and Aida says that she gets a choice, and yeah, that's true. I mean, she's the one who's controlling everything, and Burroughs then tells Mace that they've identified half of the bodies. Mac reports he's removed all the tracking devices from the bus and has decrypted the radio so they can listen in on Hydra transmissions and steal some intel, and he offers to arrive, but Mace says that they already have a volunteer for that. So Coulson meets with Simmons, who admits that she lost Mace after she explained. Hope overhears them and knows Fitz from the history books, and as Coulson tells her that it's more fiction than fact, that it's not actually what's going on, and Mac comes in. Simmons stares at Mac in surprise, asks about Hope's mother, and Mac says it's just him and his daughter, and takes Hope to get something to eat. Mace calls Coulson and gives him a fake ID they've created for him to get past the gates, and we get some really good spying here going on, but a scientist, Alistair, then tells Fitz that the co-worker saw a camera in the suspect's locker. The camera was an antique, and they shipped him off to an enlightenment center, and Alistair figures that Fitz is troubled over a woman, and suggests that Fitz have a cup of tea with him, and we find out this is Fitz's father. So yeah, it's not just fully Ophelia that has brainwashed Fitz, but it's also his father. I mean, as we know, and as I think they brilliantly set up in the second half of the season, that Fitz never really knew his father, and that his father never really was that father figure that he wants. So in this world, because there is no S.H.I.E.L.D. for Fitz to join, obviously he's able to have more relation with his father. And his father, as we know, was kind of an evil scientist and things like that. He probably would be able to pick Fitz's brain, but because there is no Simmons to sustain that urge to, go darker and turn evil, there is no way for him to abandon that. It's really sad to think about, but it gives us even more of a reason. It makes much more sense why Fitz is so unbreakable, why he just can't crack in this world. And, I like this, not just Aida that does that. Like, yes, Aida has full control, but she also did give, Fitz his father, and he's gone through to him between that and Ophelia. It's very unlikely Fitz is going to crack anytime soon, which is really sad to think about. So Coulson drives the bus up to the Enlightenment Center gate. The guard checks his ID. The guard then questions him, and Coulson says he's filling in for the normal driver. A guard comes aboard and searches the gate, but fails to see Jeffrey and Burroughs hiding in the body bags. The guard finally lets Coulson through, and in his cell we see Radcliffe. He yells at the guards to kill him since they've taken everything from him, including Agnes, and I mean, you gotta feel bad for him. I like that Radcliffe is in a vulnerable position at this point. You know, he was kind of the villain of the second half, but now he's very vulnerable because Agnes is gone. He really has nothing. And Daisy listens from her cell, hears Radcliffe crying. She figures he's getting everything he deserves for creating the framework, but again, he didn't really do anything wrong. He did this as a way to, to take away people's pain and for people to have a more, to get rid of all those regrets that everyone has. And Radcliffe tells her that Fitz killed Agnes, and Daisy wonders how one regret could change who someone is, but Radcliffe tells her that of course it can. All it takes is one sentence like "I love you" or "we're having a baby" or she's gone. And he's right. I mean, things like that, those are things that just change everything. I mean, think of Daisy. 1 second she's happy with Lincoln, she has this great life with him, she has someone who she can depend on and who she can rely on, but then the next second he dies and her life rapidly changes since then. Or look at Mac. Just by giving him a daughter, his entire purpose is reconfigured. I mean, just little things like that, and that's essentially what's happened in the framework. So Daisy says that she didn't think Fitz was capable of murder, and Radcliffe tells her that under the right circumstances, anyone can do anything. He says he built a back door that Ophelia just can't stop and tells her how to get to it. So Alistair wonders why Fitz is so down on himself. Fitz explains he had to kill an enemy of the state. His father wonders what the problem is, since, they do this all the time, and Fitz wonders if he didn't need to kill her, or maybe she was just mentally ill. And Alistair says that the doubts are Fitz's mother talking, and tells him that the man he raised is a great man in a hard world, and he insisted in a hard world they can't afford the luxury of sympathy, and that they don't buckle to guilt or sentiment. And Alistair says that everyone needs the strap across the back. Fitz has felt it, and Aida is the only person who really understands it. And he figures that Fitz loves Ophelia, and Fitz says he doesn't know what kind of man he'd really be without Alistair. So again, you can really tell he's gone through to him, and Coulson presents his ID to the soldiers inside. Mace chokes the man unconscious when he checks the body bags, and he tells Coulson and Ward they need to find the man with important intel. So Coulson mourns, telling the lies that supported Hydra, and Mace tells Burroughs to stand watch while he and Coulson find the man. They fight their way in, they free the prisoners, and the man they're looking for actually hugs Mace, who introduces himself to Coulson as Antoine Triplet, and it's Tripp. Yeah, Tripp is alive in this world, and it makes a lot of sense. Again, there was no S.H.I.E.L.D, so therefore Tripp couldn't have died. And we know that Tripp died in the Season 2 mid-season finale, and we haven't seen him since. He was over on Unreal. BJ Britt's a fantastic actor, so I'm very happy to see him back here. I really did like Tripp. I don't know really where he'd fit into S.H.I.E.L.D. now, so I can understand why they killed him off, but I really did like him. I'm glad to see that he's back, and Coulson uses Tripp. He says the name felt fast, and Tripp says that his boots have the intel in them, and I thought that was just really cool to finally see Tripp again. I hope he lasts, because I didn't think that he was going to come back in this world, but again, thinking of all the things that has changed, like Radcliffe said, one sentence can change everything, and just because, just by doing this, Tripp is able to come back because of that. So I thought that was definitely really cool, and that he's still alive in this world. But May receives a report about the unscheduled drop at the Enlightenment Center. Fitz injects her with a steroid, says that she has an hour of augmented strength, and at the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, Gemma is talking to Mac and looks at the Hydra history books, and Mac describes all the missing history, like the Trail of Tears and Martin Luther King, and says that he's the judge at his home. He goes over to Hope, and Simmons watches them smiling. Ward's doing the same, and Ward says that they're all fake. He figures that Simmons doesn't like him because he's someone that he's not, and Simmons admits she can't stand to look at him, obviously, because again, this is Ward. She doesn't look at Ward in a peaceful manner. So Ward wonders what he did in the real world, and I like that she admits that he killed several people. He apologizes, wonders if what Mac feels for Hope makes it real, and a Hydra transmission comes in about a potential breach, and Ward realizes that Mace and the others have in fact been discovered, and then we get to the big ending here. So Tripp and Coulson then search for Tripp's boots. He explains they contain an old school spy camera. He took photos of Fitz's secret project, and just as he finds the boots, Coulson sees a guard leading his student Chris to a quarantine building, and Tripp then explains that all the kids end up there, and smiling, Coulson tells Tripp to get the plans to Mace that all the kids, basically, while he helps the kids that he let down once before, which I really like seeing, because as we know, these kids, they don't really like Coulson because they know that the ideals of everything in Hydra and, what he stood for are wrong, and he knows that too, and I like the way he's trying to make it up to them here. So Tripp then finds Mace and tells him that Coulson took off. The Quinjet with May arrives, and Mace then tells Burroughs to get the film back to base while he gets Coulson. Tripp offers to take Mace to Coulson, and Burroughs calls in, tells Ward what's happening, and Ward says that Mace needs an extraction. He says it's time to see what the big man can do. Simmons offers to go in his place and explains that what happens to Mac happens to him in both worlds, and Ward asks if it has anything to do with Hope, and Simmons doesn't respond, again, because she knows what's actually going on. She doesn't really want to admit the truth, and May then attacks Mace, who tells Tripp to get Coulson while he handles her. He realizes she's been juicing, and they fight, and Coulson then enters the quarantine building. He finds the students being brainwashed. He locates Burnell and Chris, and as he frees them, Tripp arrives, and again, I love that he was doing this as a way to make it up to them. I thought that was definitely very well done, especially because this Coulson is a lot less powerful than the one we know. I thought it was just really good to see. So May then pushes her against Mace, who continually is taunting her. He asks if she joined them, and he knocks her away, and May then insists that Mace is a terrorist, and he says that if he was, then she'd be dead. And once he walks off, May radios in, tells Ophelia that her strength is fading, and Fitz is with Aida and tells May to have the Quinjet destroy the quarantine building, and it does so, and the building then collapses, and Ward and Simmons then arrive in time to see the Quinjet fly off. Meanwhile, Tripp gets the students off. Simmons then stares at Tripp in shock. He explains that people are trapped inside. She can't believe that Tripp is actually alive. I mean, she hasn't seen Tripp in years, and he explains that people are trapped inside. They go in to help. Coulson's getting the students out and sees Chris trapped as rubble comes down. Mace leaps in the way, blocking the rubble, is buried with Chris, and yeah, Mace dies, actually. He sacrifices himself, which I was really surprised about. But honestly, I think we got a really satisfying stuff with Mace, especially in this back half of the season. They've really done a lot with him, and I thought that was definitely very well done. But May tells her men she needs verification that Mace is dead, activates her body cam, goes in. She finds Burnell and the others, who say that there are others who need help. May calls in, asks why there are kids in there, and she gets to the classroom. Coulson tells her to put down the gun and help them, and Mace then lifts the main support up. He tells them to get Chris out, so he's not dead yet, and May then tells him to freeze, says that she was trying to save a kid. Ward warns her that if she shoots Mace, then they all die, and that's obviously not going to look good for her, so basically, Coulson tells her to shoot them or help, and they form a S.H.I.E.L.D to get Chris out, and after a moment, May then joins in. Chris thanks her for her help, and Mace realizes that they just can't save them, and he tells them to get out. Coulson refuses at first, but realizes it's hopeless, and he reluctantly goes, and the others go as well. May laughs. She looks at Mace and then nods. He sees her, and once she leaves, everyone gets to the bus. They can only watch as the building collapses, and it's really devastating, the collapse. You see that he wanted to die a hero's death, and it's very satisfying for Mace, because as we know, Mace wasn't really a hero in the world. That was all something that, all those agents, like, for example, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Talbot, Talbot wanted them to think that he was the next Captain America, when in reality, he was just a normal guy, and in this world, he got to live that dream as being a hero, and we know, obviously, his greatest pain was that he didn't get to be a hero. Well, in this world, he is, but it came with a price, and I thought it was honestly very satisfying the way that was done. I definitely really did like that. So, Alistair and Fitz share a toast to the success of the mission. Aida looks on, and in the real world, we see Aida checks the mentally imprisoned S.H.I.E.L.D's team. Mace's monitor has flatlined. He actually is dead. And remember, if you die in the framework, you die in the real world. And that they weren't lying about that. He's actually dead, which is crazy. But then we get to the ending here, where May visits Daisy, asks if it's true that Daisy is an Inhuman, and Daisy says she is, once powerful enough to bring the Triskelion down. May says that she hopes so. She smashes a Terrigen crystal on the floor. The mist then forms a cocoon around Daisy. Who knows what's going to happen there, but that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall. Let's just get into this episode and where I think this is going to go from here. So, wow. I mean, what an episode this really was. Let's just talk about this. Mace is actually dead. I'm not going to lie to you guys. When he died first, I'm like, okay, he just died in the framework. He's probably going to wake up. But no, he actually flatlined in the real world. If you die in the framework, you die in the real world. They weren't lying about that. And it really just ups the stakes more than before. I mean, sure, when Agnes died, we definitely felt it. But that's because Agnes was already dying. Mace wasn't already dying. He was in the framework. And apparently, if you die in the framework, it's like dying in the real world, which is just crazy to think about, but that's exactly what they did here. And I thought it was really well done, honestly. Like I said, they've done a very good job with setting up this arc that Mace wanted to be a real hero. And when it really comes down to it, guys, sure, it was sad, but he died a hero's death. He died the way I think the real Mace would have wanted to go out, which is as a hero, saving all of these children. And even though it was by May, he still did die a hero's death. And I thought it was honestly really satisfying. I'm gonna miss that character. Jason O'Mara was great on this show, but honestly, I don't know what else they really could have done with him. I think that it made sense to kill him off when they did. I think, now would not have been the time to kill off like a Fitz or a Mac. And if they killed off Tripp, I mean, that just would have been completely unnecessary. I don't know why. It would have felt like it would have been pointless that they brought him back. Why'd you kill him off just to bring him, why'd you bring him back just to kill him off? I hate it when shows do that. But I like that we saw Mace here. I thought, like I said, it was really satisfying. And all that we've got in this season, I was very happy with the way all that turned out. Definitely going to miss him, but a really good death overall. But let's talk about this. Tripp is back. I can't believe that Tripp actually did return. But again, I didn't really think of, I didn't really think of the whole... I know obviously Ward was alive, things like that, but I didn't really conceive that maybe anyone else that died might still be out there, which makes me think Lincoln could still be out there, Bobby could still be out there, Hunter could still be out there. Bobby and Hunter, as we know, they left a long time ago in season 3, but they could very well come back because that show's not happening anymore. So they very well could bring them back. And honestly, I could definitely see something like that happening where they do bring other characters back. And especially Tripp. Tripp is a character who I always really did like, but I can't really say I remember him because I didn't really watch season 1, as you guys know. I came into the show in season 2. I saw him in 10 episodes. He was definitely good, but I feel like it's going to remind us how great Tripp really was as a character. I don't really remember him that much, but I really did like BJ Britt. I think he's a very good actor. I know I'm sounding ridiculous that, he's a great character, yet I don't really remember him, but I feel like this is going to, give him better stuff and actually remind us, who he really was. I think it's just been so long without the character. It's not the character was bad, I just don't really remember him, but I think it's just been so long. I think it definitely was worth it to see Tripp again, so... I definitely did like seeing that. It looks like Daisy might get through to May, though, because May now knows that Daisy is, in fact, an Inhuman. I don't know exactly what's going to happen here. If May, maybe she'll get through to her. She'll let her know what's going on. We know all it simply takes is, just a little word or something or some sort of recognition. So I don't know if May she will be able to get through to her. I think they can pretty much get through to everyone except for Fitz. But as Coulson said, Mace and Mac are not going to react the same way that he did. And I don't know if May is going to either. I don't exactly know what that means, if they're going to be a little more erratic at what's going on. But I think Daisy's going to try to get through to May. I don't know if that's actually going to work, but... we'll have to see what happens there. I love the dynamic that they started to have in the second half of season 4, so I really do hope we get back to that. I think those two have some really good chemistry. They really do work well together, and I definitely did like seeing that. I thought I like, what we've got in between those two, so I hope that she is able to get through to her. I hope that definitely does work out. We'll have to see the way that turns out. And then as far as Radcliffe, Radcliffe you gotta feel bad for, sure. He's essentially the reason this world was created and why things have gone so badly. But he had no idea of the, what exactly could happen here and the potential catastrophic consequences that things have really turned out. And now he is being held by his own creation, and I want him to get out of this world. I want Aida to free him. I want him to be okay. And I'm interested in seeing really what's going to happen there, if he's going to be freed, if Ada's going to get it, if Ada's going to win. There's just a lot of possibilities for where this is going to go. And then Ward, of course, you can tell that Simmons wants Ward to know what's going on. He definitely has an idea. He just doesn't know that he's dead. And I don't know how exactly he's going to take that when he realizes he's not there. But as we know, I mean, the framework can really change things. And honestly, because of how different things are in the framework, I could very well see this being the foreseeable future. Like, this is the Coulson we get throughout the rest of the show. Or Tripp's going to be on throughout the rest of the show. Now that BJ Britt doesn't really have any other commitments, I could very well see that happening. He's always hinted that he wanted to come back. And I think this could be a permanent situation. I don't know if that's actually the case, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and I definitely could see that possibly being true. I love seeing more of why Fitz is the way he is. It's not just Aida, it's also Alistair, and I think that little change, I don't know if you're going to get Fitz back to the way he is, honestly. I think it's too dramatic of a change to really get him back that soon. I don't know if they're really going to get through to him. We'll have to see the way all that turns out. Overall, guys, this was a brilliant episode. I really am loving everything about this third pod. When it comes down to, guys, I can't really pick a favorite. I think all three of these pods are absolutely killing it. This third one is just so interesting. There's so many interesting directions they can go with it, and really anything can happen. I mean, at this point, now that Mace is dead and Tripp is there, literally anything could happen. I could see, like, Lincoln coming back. I could see Bobby coming back. I could see so many potential things happening here. Hell, maybe even that Raina comes back from season 2 or something like that. Or who was that character that Coulson liked in the beginning half of season 3? She could even come back. I mean, literally anything is possible at this point. But overall, guys, I really did love this episode. This was definitely one of the best episodes for this third half by far. And I'm definitely going to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 18, No Regrets, a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So over, guys, remember this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The most guys saw this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. Did you like Mace's death? Did you think it was satisfying? I thought overall it was definitely well done. But that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you guys at my next one, which will be for the series premiere, the new Freeform show, Famous in Love. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.